Hi, welcome to Losing Faith, Finding Spirit. We're talking about emotional abuse and toxic relationships and how to identify things going on in those relationships, and are you in an emotionally abusive relationship, and do you need to change and get out? Kind of how to identify that. I've been doing a red flag series, and this is kind of a little bit more of an elaboration of that. And this one is, I want to talk mostly about those people who feel like it's all their fault. Is it really your fault? Are you really the problem? And how to kind of figure out, is this self-blame part of the manipulation? Is the self-blame a product of the abuse? Or are you really the problem? Like, do you really have some issues you need to work through? Starting with that, if you are the problem, first of all, it takes two people to argue and fight. It takes two people. Most cases, both parties are a little bit at fault. When you have an argument and you get a little out of control, both people should shoulder the blame. You both have a little bit of a responsibility in the relationship. The whole relationship should not be your responsibility alone. You should both be working together to have a peaceful ecosystem where you both feel good and happy and content and well. If you find that you are constantly trying to make excuses for the other person's behavior, if you find that you are the one feeling guilty, you're feeling a lot of shame, you're feeling negative, just like you're a terrible person, if you have the thought in your head, no one else will ever love me, I will never find another person as good as this, and because no one will love me because I'm such a bad person, you need to evaluate all the other red flags we've talked about on this channel. You really need to start thinking about, is there something else going on? You should not be shouldering the whole blame. And if you feel like you are, and if you do, because people who are in these relationships do feel like it's all their fault. They do feel like if I just did something different, if I just said the right magic words, it would be fine. But the truth is that never happens. And ask yourself too, how quick are you to apologize? How quick are you to change your behavior? How often do you find yourself trying to be the peacekeeper? How often are you twisting yourself into a pretzel to find peace in the relationship? And if your answer to that question is all of the time, or it's my fault the majority of the time, I'd say 80 to 90% of the time, you start to feel like it's your fault. You need to really evaluate whether or not this relationship is balanced. Because it shouldn't be. It shouldn't all be your fault. In a healthy relationship, both people shoulder the blame, they shoulder the hardships, and they work together. And when you're in this kind of a relationship, you kind of start thinking that maybe you are shouldering it, maybe you are working together, maybe you're both doing good things, but you're really not. It's unbalanced, and the weight does overwhelmingly go on the victim. The weight of responsibility. How often is your partner not just saying it with words? Because sometimes they're really good at apologizing and saying exactly what you want to hear. How often does your partner say, that was their fault, they need to work on some issues, and do something, actually follow through on that? Or how often do they slip back into those same patterns? How often do they start to pick on you? How often did they start to tease you? How often did they start to argue with you? How often did they keep you, under their control? How often do they invalidate you? A healthy relationship too. Think of when you talk to your friends or your family, people who you are close to and feel warm and comfortable around. If you tell that friend or family, hey, this thing you said really upset me, I'm really upset about that, and they say, oh my goodness, I'm so sorry, I didn't mean to upset you, let's talk about this, are you okay to talk about it right now? Can we figure out what's going on? And they will talk with you, and you guys can have a good discussion without anybody getting upset, without anybody flying off the handle, without anybody saying, the person will own up and say, wow, I didn't realize those words were hurtful, or I can see how you feel that way. I can see it. I understand now in the context of everything you're going through, why that was hurtful for you. I'm so sorry. That was definitely not my intention. I'll be more careful in the future. And then they are more careful in the future. And then they work. And if they make a mistake, they say, I'm so sorry. I'm sorry. I forgot. I know that that's a trigger for you. I'm going to work, I'll be more careful with that. But usually you don't have to worry about that. You know that your friend is going to follow through. You know that your loved one is going to be a better person. And chances are that when those things happen, they don't happen very often, that it's very rare that your friend or your loved one, the people that you feel very comfortable and warm about, hurt you. It's rare. But this person, for some reason, the person that you're considering is this emotional abuse, does it all the time. That's like part of their pattern. That's part of their cycle. That is what they do. And eventually, if you're deep into it, if you're real deep into the relationship, you only get this side of them. The good parts, the parts that you are holding on for, are very rare. The kind words and the gentle words, the cherished words, are very rare. So if you notice that that the other person is negative towards you, it makes you feel worse more than they make you feel better, more than they make you feel, validated and confident and, and an equal person, you're in an emotionally abusive relationship, and you need to start making some plans to get out. And you might not see it right away. It took me a very long time, and it took me having a child and seeing the way the behaviors were being projected and treated towards my child for me to actually see it clearly. And then once the blinders were off, I was done. Emotionally, I was checked out. I checked out. There was also some things that happened that also kind of pushed the envelope, and I had, those last straws. But even then, you try. Even then, I kept trying. I kept going to therapy. Well, and that's the other thing. So I knew I had a problem. Self-blamer over here, codependent, classic. And from my childhood, with being the one feeling emotionally responsible for my parents' horrible marriage and my mother's misery, I knew I had some issues. And I knew that my issues were stemming from my childhood. I knew it. And I kept saying that. I'm like, look, every time you drink, it's very triggering because my father was an alcoholic. And this is really hard for me. And I'm always on edge. And you yell at me and you cuss at me and you demean me when you're drinking. Like, you are a different person. And then he will argue at me, that he's not changing. This is who he really is, which, hello, he said he is that way regardless of if it's alcohol or not. He was being very forthright about the fact that this is who he is. I just kept giving excuses because I felt like maybe I'm doing something when he's drinking, because eventually he ended up saying that he gets defensive because I'm already on edge every time he drinks. But I didn't start that way. We were in college together, and I drank too, in college. And I felt like it was fine. I felt like, not everybody's an alcoholic. This isn't, it was fine. But because I compromised on that and got involved in him, he started saying that I was the one projecting everything to him. And so I was like, you know what? That's probably true. Let me get into some therapy and work on this. Let me work on my issues with my parents. He said, no, you don't need therapy. He didn't want me going to therapy to get better, but he didn't want me to project my issues on him. And then he would say that I'm already over it and I don't need it. So it's like, there's no winning in these situations. So if you're trying to make yourself better, they will try to stop you. And if you admit that you are not okay and that you have issues, they'll blame that, but they don't want you to get better, because then they don't have an excuse. If you get better, you work through your issues. I worked through my parents' issues, and then you know what happened? When I started working through my parents' issues, I realized that the problem was in the present. It wasn't just a trigger for the past. He was actually a problem. That's what happened. What happened when I got better, when I started getting into therapy, when I started doing the work of really making some big changes in my life, getting my emotional regulation under check, not being reactive in those moments, working through the fear response and the freeze response. Once I started really making the difference, I could see it clearly that this was an abusive relationship. That was my path to freedom. I had to get myself fixed. I had to start letting myself be the victim and start taking over and getting my power and becoming a thriver and a healer. And then that's when I could see it clearly. And I had more confidence and more love for myself. And maybe not confidence. I still was very afraid when everything finally blew up. But I had more love and respect for myself and my child to not stay in this situation. I knew it was not okay, and I was done. And I was going to sacrifice whatever I had to get out. And that's where I'm at. And it's much better. And I'm doing so much better. Now looking back, I can't believe I lived in that. I telling you, sharing some of the things on this channel that I've experienced and just repeating those stories now that I've been opened up and I've been telling some of my family and friends about what happened. I can't believe I lived in that. If my sister had come to me and said that her husband was treating her even a fraction of the way that I was being treated, I would help her leave. That's how bad. Like, if you think that, if you take a step back, really evaluate your relationship, write it down. We said that before for the self-blaming. Really write it down. Try to take a third person, like a step back view, no emotions, and just like the facts, like who said what, who started the conversation. Did you say throw up a yellow flag, hey, I need a break, hey, I need a timeout? Did you say that this conversation is distressing? Did they give you a break? Did they allow you to have that time? Did they keep pressuring you? Did they start demeaning you? Do they start descending into name calling and all of that? You need to be very mindful. And regardless of how they fight or how they argue with you, if they are arguing with you more than you are peaceful, if they are arguing with you like often, that's not healthy. People shouldn't argue all the time. You're not compatible. You're not compatible. I remember telling him at the end of when we were trying to get through the divorce, like, look, you go find somebody that's more compatible to you. Somebody who doesn't have an issue with you being an alcoholic. Like, somebody who's okay with you drinking. Somebody who will drink with you. Like, you'll find somebody who's okay with you being you. I am not that person. Stop trying to force me to stay when I'm not that person. Don't make me be that person. I will never be that person. And, like, that was it. And the damage was already done. There's so much damage done in the relationship. There was no trust. I'm like, there's nothing left. There is nothing left between us. Why do you want to hold on to something that's disappeared? It's a ghost. Stop. You need to let it go. You'll find something else. And that's not the goal. The goal isn't to find somebody else. And abusive people don't want to let you go. They will fight tooth and nail to keep you because they have to start all over again and groom somebody else and do the whole love bombing and trauma bonding thing with somebody else. And that's a lot of effort. It's a lot of energy, and it's money, and it's all kinds of things. They don't want to do that. They rather keep you because you make them feel better. So they will do anything to keep you. That's not okay. You have to let people go. It's not healthy. You're worth so much more than what you've lived through. You're worth so much more than the hidden scars and the bruises that are inside your body and your emotions and your mind. You're worth so much more than that. You're worth a healing, healthy journey. You're worth a relationship where somebody cherishes you, where you can have that conversation, have those difficult conversations without somebody going into a rage fest and fighting with you. It shouldn't descend into anger. The default emotion should not be anger. And if it is, are they working on it? That's the one question. The only thing you need to know, If you feel like you're shouldering the burden, are you the one that's the problem? Is your other person doing anything to make it better? Are they doing any changes? Long term? I'm not talking a couple days, a couple weeks. I'm talking long term, months, years. Have they actually put in the effort? Or is it just lip service? Is it just future faking? They're making promises they don't intend to keep. You know in your heart, and that's why you're here. Trust that knowing. You can get better, you can do better. And I do recommend that you keep working on you. I do recommend it because there's power in that. You will not fall prey and become a victim again. You will make yourself victim proof to this kind of abuse. You will start to see it clearly. You won't put up with it. You'll have healthy boundaries. And it takes a while. You got to be graceful with yourself. You don't get here in one night. It does take time to heal. It takes time to heal. It takes time to figure out what boundaries need to be set, how to set them, how much to give and take. It takes effort and time, and really a lot of self-awareness. But it's worth it. It's worth it because you're going to be stronger for it, and you're not going to fall victim again. You're going to see it. You're going to see right away that this is a love bombing. You're going to see right away whether somebody is being sincere with you, because you've lived it. You're aware. And that memory is not going to let you. That fear and those feelings, you're going to be more in tune to those feelings, and they're going to alert you right away that something's off. And you're going to remember all the red flags that you've lived through, and you're not going to fall victim again. That is my wish for you. That is my definite wish for all of you listening in, is that you will find your healing, you will not fall prey into these kinds of relationships, and that you will find your way out if you are still in them. And that you realize that when it comes to blaming yourself, who is really the problem? It takes two. It takes two to make it work, and it doesn't really take two to tear it down. It only takes one. But if you feel like you're shouldering all of the burden, you're shouldering all the responsibility, all of the emotional weight, it's not healthy. Are they doing the work to make themselves better, to really make changes? Are they validating you? Are they giving you time? Do they cherish you? Do they want to treat you like something that is special? Do they treat you like someone who means something to them all of the time, not just sometimes, all the time? Are the intimate moments really, truly genuine? Or are they rushed, and are they one-sided? Do they expect things in return? Do they give because they want something in return? And it's not clear to see that right away. It does take time. But slow down the relationship and you'll see. That is my best wish for you. I hope you find your healing. I hope you find that you are not the problem, that two people can be at fault, and that the other person does need to take some responsibility in the relationship. And you need to stop holding it. You need to stop taking on responsibility for a grown adult who is capable. Stop taking that on. They are capable of healing themselves. They are capable of learning that. I would do so much research into ADHD, into alcoholism. I did so much research into all of this stuff because I was like, this is what he has, because he was diagnosed with ADHD as a child, and the alcoholism was definitely a problem. And I did all this research, and I'd print out pages, I'd email him pages and websites and all of this information. So much time and energy spent on trying to get his healing for him, trying to give him the healing, spoon feed him his healing, like give him a path. And then the conversations we had where he'd complain about work or he'd complain about his schedule, and I would tell him, here's what you need to do, here's how you fix it, here's what we'll work together, I will help you, what do you need me to do to help you, encourage you? He never did anything. All that effort. If he was serious about getting help and quitting alcohol and quitting, and being more emotionally responsible, taking a better life, living a better, healthier life, he would have made the changes himself. He would eat different. He would go exercise. I can't eat the food for him. I can't exercise for him. He would have to do it. Stop trying to spoon feed and heal people. It's not your responsibility. They are responsible for their own healing. They are capable. And that's the thing too. I did the work. I kept thinking, if I can do the work, if I can heal, you can too. You can do this. And they can. They're capable of doing it, but they won't. That's the difference between an abuser and somebody who just has some trauma. An abuser can heal, but won't. People with trauma can heal and do. You know what I'm saying? Like, they can heal, maybe they don't know yet, but they get some information, they say, wow, this is exactly what I needed to know. I want to heal. Somebody who's abusive, like, there are alcoholics in the world who aren't abusers. There are people who have personality disorders who aren't abusive. And I'm not talking narcissists. Unfortunately, that is like, low empathy is the problem with people who have a real hard personality disorder. The low empathy personality disorders really cannot see. They are incapable of seeing. They need to do some serious help and work to become self-aware and to become aware of others. Become aware of other people's emotions and how their behavior influences and affects things around them, because they can't see that. And that's probably the saddest part and the hardest part, is healing is so close. But with narcissists and people who have low empathy, they really have a much harder time finding it. But that's not an excuse. That's still not an excuse, because they can still treat people fine. They treat other people and strangers fine. They do know the difference. They're just getting something out of making you and abusing you. They get something out of it. It's called narcissistic supply. And that means that when they abuse you, it makes them feel better. When they abuse you, they feel stronger, they feel smarter, they feel like they're on cloud nine. When you get upset, their anger is pushed out of them and onto you, and they feel better. You don't have to keep making excuses. Once you realize that your person is probably a narcissist, you need to get out, because they won't change for you. I don't know what makes a narcissist change. I haven't seen any of the narcissists in my life make any big changes. They just continue on doing what they do because their mind has created these coping mechanisms and strongholds that don't allow them to see that they are wrong, that they are making bad decisions, that they are affecting other people. They can't even see that. If somebody can't see that, they can't do the work to heal. They can't do the work because they can't even see that trauma in their childhood is affecting them today. That self-awareness is something that takes time to do and to unearth. If you feel like you are the problem, you might not be. Chances are you're not the problem. You're not the whole problem. So even if you do feel that you're the problem, the best thing you could do is get some help for yourself. Get some therapy. Do some self-healing books. Whatever it is, you listen to this channel. Do the work. Try to do that inner child of health. Try to see if the thoughts and feelings are coming from external sources. And then do the work. Make some changes. Whatever that is, however small, start small. Make those changes. And then once you start doing that work, you're going to see whether or not the other person is also doing their part. Are they doing their work? Or are they really treating you abusively? The answer will come. It'll be clear to you. And I hope this helps. I hope that you find your healing. Thank you for listening. Bye.